it needs to come from like, having a community built in from the start. And so it's something that we were really excited about.
I mean, to be honest, that was very epic.
First edition Unity Catalog t-shirt, you need a single unified catalog for governance across your data and AI assets.
Hi everybody, so today I'm with Youssef and together we will be talking about Unity Catalog with Michelle. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being here with us. So I don't know, can you maybe start by telling us more about yourself, what you do at Databricks?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, very excited to be here joining you all. A little bit about me, I am a product manager at Databricks. So I work on a couple different things. I work on open source Unity Catalog, which is what we're going to be talking about today. I also work on Delta Lake. And so very familiar with both open source projects and growing and building up those communities. And I'm a product manager, and I also am based in San Francisco. I'm happy to answer any more questions thereabout.
All right, awesome. So one of the big announcements at the last Data and AI Summit was the release of Unity Catalog as an open source project, which I believe Matei did live on stage, so releasing the catalog just now. Can you tell us more about Unity Catalog? Like, what is it at a high level? Which challenge does it solve? And why people should care?
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'll start really high level with Unity Catalog, and I'll talk a little bit about just like maybe what catalogs are solving in general. So catalogs, what they're solving is first we have this concept of like open data lakes, right? So all these companies, they have tons and tons of data. Maybe they have a bunch of different tables. Maybe these tables are stored in a bunch of multiple different open storage formats in their containers or buckets. Maybe they'll have images and unstructured data. Maybe they'll also have models, which are leveraging all of that data in order to provide insights or power like, real-time AI applications and stuff like that. And so organizations, they have all these data and AI assets. And then what a catalog does is it helps organizations with metadata management, which is a very, very, very dry term for basically how do you power and govern all of this data and AI assets that are in your Lakehouse, that are within your organization. How do you actually get insights from it, power discovery, things like observability and lineage and auditing, how you make sure that the right teams of people have access to the right data, and that maybe we're classifying data that's sensitive and stuff like that. And so a catalog is really at the nexus of all of these things, helping organizations govern and manage their data lakes.
All right, so it's about getting access to the data and all the AI, making sure we can do discovery on top of that, all the role, permission, and all these kind of layers. So can you tell us what's Unity? Because Unity Catalog is the catalog which is going to stand on top of kind of compute engine, like you could have DuckDB, Databricks, anything else. So maybe what's the catalog doing compared to what's the engine doing?
Yeah, so let's see. I realize I said probably like a bunch of different jargon. And so then maybe I can like start with taking out some of the jargon and saying, okay, what are you trying? What's an organization trying to do? Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm a user. Say I'm Michelle. I'm trying to like query some table. I need to be able to first. I have the table name. Maybe my data scientist told me like, hey, here's the right tables that you need to query. There's some data on users and there's some data on like I used to work at Airbnb, so say I'm trying to like query some reviews data or something like that on listings. And the role of the catalog, it's not the query engine itself. It's the thing that the query engine talks to, where I can give the query engine the table name. I want to query the users table. I want to query the reviews table. I want to join these. I want to select these columns and stuff like that. And also I'm trying to query this with the permissions of like Michelle, who's like a business user at Airbnb. And the engine I might use would be, say, something like Spark or Trino or Presto or something like that. And then that engine would talk to the catalog, which is managing all of, in this case, say like Airbnb's data, and then sharing that table name, actually get back metadata about that table, and then be able to go and actually access like the underlying storage to get all the right files and query that and the metadata, understanding the schema and stuff like that, and then be able to return back my actual results. So the distinction here is that the engine on its own wouldn't necessarily like have all this context about, oh, the governance or what user has which permissions on which tables, and what's this latest schema and stuff like that. And so that's why you would be talking to the catalog in this case first, to make sure that you have all those right permissions and that you're accessing the right table and stuff like that, and accessing the right set of files that power that table underneath.
So,
Does that
so
does that kind of help? I could even like go a step further in terms of like, okay, how would you describe like Unity Catalog for a non-technical person too?
Michelle, what inspired the decision to open source Unity Catalog?
Yeah, okay. So great question. Something that we've really been pioneers of and have seen in the industry is this concept of open data lakes, which I think I touched on earlier. But it's this idea that all of your data, it's in a open storage format, stored in a bucket or container that you own and control. And so you will always have full ownership and control over your data. It's stored in an open storage format. So there's no sort of like lock-in into these proprietary formats. And so that's the concept of a data lake. And then what Databricks has pioneered is this concept of like a lake house. So it's like, now that you have all of these files stored in blob storage, and these are actually powering all of these like structured data applications and critical business applications and stuff like that. What you need is this concept of the catalog, and that's what powers the lake house. And it manages all that metadata and stuff like that. What we've seen is that in the real world, users and organizations and enterprises, they aren't using a catalog by itself. They're not just using one solution. In the real world, they might be having on-premises data, right? They might be having tables or data that are managed in other catalogs, third-party systems, other external systems. And so the real world architecture is quite complex. And what we've seen is that this idea of like metadata silos kind of forming without this sort of open data lakehouse and interoperability between all of these different catalogs and solutions. And so the decision to open source Unity Catalog stems from this idea of, okay, well, we want to empower this vision. This is something that we hear a lot from our customers. So I'm a product manager, means I talk to like a lot of customers every week. And something that every customer has reiterated is this idea of wanting an open data lakehouse where any engine, any compute engine, any tool that's the right tool for the job is able to access their data that's in their data lake without needing to like mess around with like gluing together all of these different solutions. And so there's two things that we wanted to do with open sourcing Unity Catalog, which is, the first is creating like a standard, open standard for interoperability for these engines and for other catalogs to be able to talk to Unity Catalog, to be able to access all of your data and AI assets that are in a single place. And then I think that the second thing that we're trying to do with open source Unity Catalog is that, this is something that we have like a strong thesis around. So we started building Unity Catalog several years ago around this thesis that you need a single unified catalog for governance across your data and AI assets. So not just tables like structured data, but also unstructured data like images or videos or raw PDFs and documents and stuff like that. And then also maybe the things like your AI ML models or your functions like those Gen AI agents that you're building with all of these different data sets and stuff like that also need to be governed in the same solution. And we don't see that there's anything else that's open like this in the market today, and it seemed like a big gap. And to us, it was a clear decision to take the thing that we've been building internally for the past several years and actually bring that to the open source community so that we can involve it out in the open and also create that standard for interoperability and break down some of those metadata silos.
That makes sense. And just to go back, Matei made the repo, let's say, available to everyone on the stage, and that was an epic, I think, one of the best presentation I've ever witnessed. And
that was real, by the way. It was very nerve-wracking.
yeah, I mean, that's for sure. Like, if something went wrong, like, yeah, but I mean, to be honest, that was very epic, and I've seen like people talking about it after the presentation for a very long time. I've seen record like people like uploading some like downloading records and doing some cuts just to publish this 5 seconds where Mate is announcing that we're doing it now on the stage, and just opening GitHub, go to the dangerous section and make the repo available to everyone. and and the question was like, I've seen that you announced several partners, and was it like, how hard was it to keep it such secret? Because I know that you've been working with several partners, you've been like developing, and it was meant to be announced at the Data and AI Summit. How hard was it to keep this secret?
It's a funny question that you asked. It's very true. So we were working with partners for months leading up to the summit, because an open source project, it doesn't just start with a single group of folks saying, all right, well, now let's just make the repo public, and then now, okay, I guess we're done, and it's just this group of folks. It needs to come from having a community built in from the start, and so it's something that we were really excited about, is working with a number of partners, both like AI companies, which I think is really interesting, and then also compute engines and stuff like that, both open source and even proprietary and stuff like that. Where the key is, we had actually been meeting with folks before. Of course, we were trying to keep it secret to not steal our own thunder, that we were going to open source Unity catalog. It wasn't hard until, I'd say, like the week of Data and AI Summit, where you're balancing all these different things. So actually at Data and AI Summit, I think like Yusuf and Quentin, you were there. We had this like open source mini summit, this other secondary track that was happening at the same time as Data and AI Summit. That's really around like Spark open source, Delta Lake, MLflow, but we also had a track for open source Unity catalog, which we couldn't say, right? So why would Unity catalog? It's very suspicious. Unity catalog is part of the open source mini summit track, and so we had this session. So we invited a bunch of partners. We had this community kickoff. It was amazing. But then also we were trying to keep it secret. We called it, I think, like a just private session or a private track or something like that, so that people wouldn't see that it was Unity catalog. Although people kept trying to poke their heads in. But it was hard to. That was probably the hardest bit. Is like you're actually there live with all of these people, in our community, and then we're trying to say, oh, Michelle, what are you doing here? And it's like, oh no, we're just here in the private session. Don't mind us having to keep all the doors closed and stuff like that. But yeah, it was fun though, and the kickoff was great.
All right, amazing. So you mentioned a bunch of partners working on UC. Can you give us a few examples of the main partners and maybe the main system already starting to speak UC?
Yeah. Well, let's see. Some of the partners, and especially the ones that we went to, for example. So actually, we I should mention, we donated Unity catalog to the Linux Foundation AI and Data Foundation. And so we went to LFAI and Data with a number of partners already in support of Unity catalog. And so examples of these partners are friends at Daft, like the multimodal query engine, PoppyGraph, this like graph query engine over open data lake formats, Stellar Data, the folks behind StarRocks, Lance DB, which is the vector database, yeah, and they also work on the Lance storage format, which is more for like AI applications, and then we also worked with a number of partners like Llama Index and then LangChain and stuff like that on working on integrations and stuff like that from the start. And so tons of integrations have already come out. In fact, I want to say like maybe the first to come out. I would say it was almost two that were competing. Is Daft? They built a client integration engine and generated a Python client within like 2 hours of the repo being live.
Whoa.
And then also that same day, Kyle, our friend at One House, the folks with Apache X Table, also built out an integration and demo all in the same day. And not only that, he also even demoed it during his talk at Data and AI Summit later that day after Mate open sourced it live. And so, I mean, as you can see, first of all, it's really easy to build with Unity Catalog. And then second of all, there's tons of momentum in terms of folks being eager to build out integrations that can speak UC, as you put it.
And since the release of the first version, what were the improvements that were added?
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So the things that I'm most excited about, I think I mentioned all these integrations, right? So there's one thing I mentioned, there's like two parts, right? So the open catalog standard for interoperability, and then also like this open source server implementation of those APIs and the CLI and stuff like that. And so I'm really excited about the integrations that are coming out because these are things that are able to speak UC and make it super useful for users and customers of Databricks and anyone who's standing up their own Unity catalog or any catalog that can speak this same open protocol. And then the second thing that I'm really excited about, this just went live last week, so you can check it out at the GitHub for Unity catalog. We have a new UI. So I mentioned that we had started off just with kind of like the server and the CLI and the Open API spec, and then now we have a very fancy new UI for being able to actually explore all of the different assets that are in your catalog. And there's a lot more to come soon on that front. It's pretty slick. You should give it a spin if you check out the GitHub repo.
Yeah, definitely. We'll add, and I think that's also lead us to the next question. What if I want to contribute to the project, or what should I do?
Yeah, okay. So there's a number of different ways that you can get started. I think it's like I think what folks maybe don't see as much is that there's so many different ways you can get involved in the community. It's not just that you need to contribute code, for example. So a few great ways to get started is first you should go check out unitycatalog.io, or I assume we'll also probably put all these links in later, but check out unitycatalog.io. It has links to all the things I'm about to mention, which is you should join the Slack community. So getting involved there, even just asking questions, maybe helping to answer questions. Being able to just like ask for like, oh, what are maybe the upcoming client integrations or stuff like that, learning about the roadmap. The second way you can get involved is you should absolutely join the GitHub repo. Actually, star it, by the way. And you can actually go check out like issues and discussions. There's a number of issues that are tagged with like good first issue. And so if maybe you're someone who's new to the community or to contributing, you can start with one of those that are tagged with good first issue if you want to start just contributing code. And then another really great way to get started, quite frankly, is actually helping us to continue to improve and flesh out our documentation. And so if you go to the GitHub today, you'll see that there's a roadmap with a number of issues that are tagged as also good first issues that are tagged with, hey, here's where we need help with docs. Also, you can get involved in the UI as well. There's a number of issues tagged to there. And so you can actually go in and start commenting and say, hey, I'll grab this and would love to take this on. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can contribute, even if it's not writing code.
Yeah, and I think we have open hours that everybody can attend, right?
Yes. Oh, great question. So yes, there's a few different additional ways you can get involved. Even for starters, we have bi-weekly community meetings. These are both live streamed, and you can also just join through they're hosted with the Linux Foundation, like AI and Data Foundation, so you can join through there. And we have these bi-weekly community meetings. We'll talk about the roadmap. We've had a number of partners come and demo integrations, or even just how they're thinking about building with Unity Catalog. And it's a great way to ask questions, get your questions answered, and then just also see what's top of mind and upcoming for the Unity Catalog community.
And talking about the roadmap, how does it work? Like if someone has an idea or want to change something within Unity Catalog, do you run votes? Like who decide what gets published and created?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So the best way to say you have something that you want to add to the roadmap or an idea or suggestion, how you would get started is you would create a GitHub issue, maybe start a thread in GitHub discussions, and or maybe find an issue where someone else already kind of like maybe someone else already had a similar thought, and then you can actually go engage there. Um, uh, like the issue, engage on it, debate. Ultimately, like we are a community-driven project, and so the way that we think about our roadmap and milestones, it's about okay, if we're looking at okay, what are those like critical next things that we need to get done? Also, where's the discussion? Where's the discussion in the community headed at? And there's a lot of different directions that we could take. And so right now, I'd say that we're still in the kind of like the crawl and walk stage of crawl, walk, and run. So, for example, we have people asking already about like, oh, advanced, like, AI classified, PII detection and tagging. And it's like, okay, we're going to get to that maybe later. And, first we need to start with hey, let's go build out this amazing UI. Let's go make it easy to deploy Unity Catalog, add a pluggable back end, all of those things, and then adding additional things to the OpenAPI spec and implementing those. And so we're working through all of those backlog of issues. But the best way to get involved is to just start engaging in discussions and start engaging in issues and in the Slack community.
And maybe you will get this cool T-shirt for those.
Yes. Ooh, we should actually plug this T-shirt. This is a first edition Unity Catalog T-shirt from Data and AI Summit. Yes. So if you attended one of Ramesh and Ramesh is the tech lead, by the way, on Unity Catalog. If you attended one of our breakout sessions, you might have gotten one of these. And if you didn't, we're going to be doing another run of a ton of merch, not just shirts. We'll do mugs, we'll do socks, we'll do the whole thing. I can't wait for the socks actually. And it's going to be for folks that are super involved in the community and contributing, and hope to see you there.
So I have a question for you. Me and Quinton are active member of the community, right?
Yes, of course you are. I see you all over the place.
So just for those who missed, so actually Michelle and her colleagues did run 2 sessions at the Data and AI Summit. So those are deep dive sessions. We're gonna put the links in the description of the recordings, as those recordings are now available on YouTube to everyone. Feel free to watch them. Those are deep dive ones. They explain how it was architectured, and we also, I think, have a demo there. I think
a lot of demos.
Zichan
Yeah.
with I think DuckDB and UC, if I'm not wrong. If I'm not wrong, that was the demo of DuckDB and UC. So we'll have description on the recording, the description of the recording. And any other things to add, Michelle, before closing?
Nothing else to add. I guess maybe I'll just +1 that plug on a breakout session. We did a number of demos, and I do have to say again, like, my gratitude for the partners in the community on like how engaged everyone has been, and the excitement that we've seen. So I'll +1 the plug on the breakout session, which is that we did demos not just with DuckDB, but also with Trino, with Unstructured IO, working with unstructured data and volumes, and then also with LangChain working with functions. And so download all the different capabilities of open source Unity catalog. And so definitely check out that session. And then let's see. I'll also say that the reason I'm so grateful and the reception too is that one fun stat is that we reached, I think, 1,000 stars on GitHub in a matter of days of the project launching, which is setting a record, at least here at Databricks, for the amount of love and reception for a new open source project that we've launched. Smashing records, I should say. And so really excited to continue to grow on that momentum.
Let's seek for the 5K, and then maybe why not 10K and more and more. So let's keep us number one in the open source.
Love it. Yeah. Well, taking over the world in the number of stars. Yeah.
So connect on Slack and go on GitHub and add a star on the repo. Let's pin the numbers.
Thank you, Michel, for being our guest. I was about to say host, but being our guest was super interesting to have all those crunchy details on UC open source. And let's see you maybe in 6 months. We'll have a bunch of new features maybe to show to the community.
Oh, we definitely will. Next time I'll come with even more demos.
Thank you, Michel.
Thank you for having me. Great chat.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.